The deadline for the Buffalo Bills 53-man roster is up today, as well as the Jonathan Taylor trade that is supposedly going to the Miami Dolphins. The AFC East is completely stacked up. We have to discuss so many players here for the Buffalo Bills. Welcome to my channel, Bills News Consolidated. Are you kidding me right now? 53-man roster will be released later today, and I think we have to just dissect the vested veterans compared to the young players that we could lose on the waiver claim. So you got to look, like, are we going to release maybe an AJ Klein because with the relationship that we have with him, right? We cut him and we can ultimately bring him back because we don't have to deal with that waiver claim process. Now, you look at another player, Shaq Lawson. Is he another waiver claim guy that the Buffalo Bills decide to part ways with because of the experience that he has? Even Jordan Phillips. I mean, Jordan Phillips really didn't see this preseason, really didn't contribute because of his injury. You know, will the Buffalo Bills decide to actually cut these guys and bring them back? Now, my point in my previous videos here was, you know, Matt Barkley even too, they signed $1 million contracts, right? So I think they come in thinking and hoping if they make the 53-man roster, they're going to be paid $1 million. But the thing is, if you cut them and sign them to the practice squad, their highest paid salary for that season is going to be like $350K. So what motivates that player? Is it the money? Do they need money this year? Do they want money this year? Now, the other thing you have to think of too is by signing to the practice squad and getting paid only $350,000, you know, you still have that ability to potentially see the field and raise your value, right? So say Matt Barkley gets cut and he's our third string quarterback on the practice squad, and God forbid Josh Allen and Kyle Allen go down. Just say how that's how it works out. Matt Barkley sees the field. He has a couple great games. He raises his stock, raises the amount of money and interest that he could receive this offseason. So although he's taking $350K, next year, depending on how this season shakes out, he could get paid a lot more than just $1 million and actually make a team the following year. So that is something to keep in mind. You know, a lot of these vested veterans like Shaq Lawson, I think, would prefer to have money, but you just have to keep that in mind. How much interest did Shaq Lawson have this past free agency? And it wasn't much. That's why he came back to the Buffalo Bills, right? So, you know, and the other thing, Andy Isabella is another guy that I think the Buffalo Bills might want to cut and bring back. But what is the relationship with Andy Isabella? Like, we don't sit down with Andy Isabella. We don't know what motivates Andy Isabella. If he's not willing to take $350K this upcoming year, if he's maybe trying to go out, seek a different team, get paid a little bit more money. Kind of interesting to see what unfolds with that. Now, the players that the Bills could lose by cutting them, you know, you got some other, Cam Lewis is another vested veteran. I looked that up. So Cam Lewis is actually another player the Buffalo Bills could decide to part ways with and bring right back and not lose on that waiver claim process. But Khalil Shakir, Justin Shorter are some big-time targets that if we cut them, if they don't make this final 53, they're going to go through that waiver claim process and probably get picked up by another team, as well as Balin Spector. You know, there's some top-notch talent on this team. The Bills have to really decide on, are we willing to risk Khalil Shakir, Justin Shorter, Balin Spector, you know, on the waivers? And I don't know if we're going to be willing to do that. Tyler Matakevich is another vested veteran, right? We could get rid of him. So, I mean, you really think about it. Tyler Matakevich, Andy Isabella, Shaq Lawson, AJ Klein. You know, there's a handful of guys here the Bills could ultimately cut, even Jordan Phillips too, right? There's a handful of guys, the Buffalo Bills, vested veterans that we could cut, not risk losing them on the waivers, have an unwritten agreement before we cut them saying, hey, look, we're going to bring you back. We're going to sign you to this practice squad. If anything happens, we know that it's 100% injury rate in the NFL. If anything happens, we're going to call you up from the practice squad. You're going to see the field. You're going to have an ability to raise your draft stock. So I think that's huge. And the other fact is, we don't have to worry about losing a Khalil Shakir. We don't have to worry about losing out on Justin Shorter or Balin Spector. and I think it makes a ton of sense. Even Leonard Floyd, a vested veteran, how crazy will the Buffalo Bills get with it? It's going to be really interesting. We know Brandon Beane is extra frugal with his money, but it really boils down to these players. Like, who really wants a Super Bowl? If you really want a Super Bowl, come and stay with Bills Mafia. So I think initially the thought here was that we might risk losing a Khalil Shakir, a Justin Shorter, a Balin Spector. But that's not going to be the case. That's not going to be the case, Bills Mafia. I think we might just be able to retain all of these guys on our team, So that's very interesting. And you look at some of the news going around the NFL here too. I do want to cover the Trey Lance rumor news that the Buffalo Bills submitted an offer. It wasn't just that Brandon Beane was doing his due diligence, trying to figure out a fair market value, right? But apparently an offer was actually put on the table. And after kind of thinking about it for some time, I thought, well, Trey Lance, 49ers gave the Miami Dolphins 3 first-round draft picks for Trey Lance. For the Dallas Cowboys to give up a 5th-round pick or whatever it was, or a 4th-round pick for Trey Lance, Trey Lance could raise his stock value, and they could easily trade him for a lot more than a 4th or 5th-round pick, whatever they got for him. And I think that was kind of the Bills' philosophy here. We all know Josh Allen, he's going to try to protect himself this season, try to not get hurt, but we all know the style of play that Josh Allen has. Developing quarterback in this really complex offensive scheme proves to make a lot of sense here. We saw Kyle Allen, Matt Barkley. You really have to have a decent backup quarterback that fits the skill set of Josh Allen, and he definitely does. And I think what could happen here, we could actually trade, if we got Trey Lance, we could have turned him back into a 1st-round draft pick. So we're not going to get rid of Josh Allen ever. But just working in the background, who knows what could have happened? Trey Lance could have stepped up in this Buffalo Bills offense with Stephon Diggs and all these weapons, raised his stock value, and we could have traded him to a different team for a 1st or a 2nd and just gotten a lot more, basically getting Trey Lance for free. Jonathan Taylor going to the Miami Dolphins is some big-time news. I really think that makes the most amount of sense, or the Dallas Cowboys. Jim Irsay and Jonathan Taylor are not on good terms right now, so I really think Irsay's not going to try to deal him to a team that Taylor wants. I think he's just going to take the most that he can for Jonathan Taylor. Whoever submits the best offer, that's where Taylor's going. Irsay doesn't care if it's in the AFC East, and it looks like it's going to be the Miami Dolphins. So that's going to be a ferocious offense, but we all know defense wins championships. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hit like, subscribe. Go Bills.